They say a picture's worth 1,000 words, and I would agree with that. However, when you're looking at pictures like this, context is everything. Here's a picture of Anderson Cooper standing in floodwater, almost up to his waist. What you're meant to see is the extreme nature of this flood. Look at this poor woman. And look, there he is standing there. Too much higher, they'll be up to their necks. Except when you see the picture in its full context. There you can see Cooper, and there you can see his cameramen that are up somewhere around their ankles, or generously, maybe their knees. Anderson himself must be standing on his knees in order to make the water look deeper. We have another picture here. This was the cover of Time magazine. Welcome to America, and a little girl crying. Donald Trump is supposedly separating this little girl from her family. It was World Press Photo of the Year. The only problem is that story is fake news. And in fact, it won this award after it had been proven to be fake news. Because it's not the truth that is important, it is the emotional impact of the image. And this is how they're going to use it against you. If you remember this, Syrian girl 7 tweets support for missile strikes. This was back in April of 17. She holds a cardboard sign that says, "Stand with Aleppo. Please stop the bombing and end the siege." The 7-year-old girl who rose to fame on Twitter as the voice of Aleppo is speaking out once again, this time about President Donald Trump's decision to order U.S. missile strikes on Syrian airbase. Syrian refugee Bana al-Abed took to Twitter just hours after the U.S. launched 59 Tomahawk cruise missiles to pledge her support. "I am a Syrian child who suffered under Bashar al-Assad and Putin," al-Abed wrote early Friday morning. "I welcome Donald Trump's action against the killers of my people." And I think you'll remember on that night, a panel on CNN, of all places, praised Donald Trump, and one person on the show said he became president tonight. And you can bet if the aggression had continued, Donald Trump would be getting favorable news coverage on CNN today. This is a way of controlling people. This tweet was shared by more than 1,500 people, and the little girl didn't stop there. "Putin and Bashar al-Assad bombed my school, killed my friends, and robbed my childhood. It's time to punish the killers of children in Syria," she continued. "We don't want World War III," which I guess is what Alex Jones had been warning about at the time. "We don't want the war in Syria. Let's stand together and end all wars. Well, explain to me how by starting a new war, we're going to end all war." It's called a contradiction in logic. We don't want World War III. We don't want the war in Syria. Al-Abed's tweets last year from rebel-held eastern Aleppo in Syria captivated people around the world, and she quickly became a social media sensation. Well, we know that these social media sites can control what gets put trending, what gets seen, and they can shadow ban as well, depending on what they don't want to spread. Al-Abed, with help from her mother, Fatima, had been documenting her life in the besieged city. "They're killing children, and we don't want to die," said Al-Abed in December 2016, before fleeing to Turkey with her family. "I thought they were living in Syria." But here they say, right in the article, in December 2016, before fleeing to Turkey with her family. So is this picture in Turkey, or is it in Syria? There's a lot of other fake news you can easily spot in this picture, but let's finish here first. Syria's President Bashar al-Assad called the internet posts a game and propaganda, and some claimed the account was somehow fake. Look at the operative word here. Somehow it's a fake. How could it possibly be faked? A little girl says it. They want to blind the truth and not show the world what happened, Fatima told CBS. You know, it's eerie how she can be the one saying those words and she's the one blinding us to the truth. The 7-year-old's Twitter account has now grown to more than 364,000 followers. All by herself, I would assume. Al-Abed has frequently pleaded the U.S. and other world leaders for help. She sent a letter to Mr. Trump in late January, days before his inauguration, imploring him to help the young victims of the war in her homeland. They are suffering because of adult people. Look at that beautiful rhetoric there. So can you please save the children and save the people of Syria? She asked in the letter. I mean, they use little kids to sell cereal. It works great. Why not use it to sell a war too? In the letter which Al-Abed sent from Turkey, she called her former hometown a city of death and told Mr. Trump he must do something for the children of Syria because they are like your children and deserve peace like you. And there's the guilt. They always turn to the guilt switch and they'll hit that over and over and over. And it's like the indulgences in the Middle Ages with the Catholic Church. You're guilty, you're sinful, you're going to hell, but we'll pardon you for some money. In this case, we'll pardon you from this guilt that you're feeling if you support a war. It's for children, after all. So, it's no surprise the young Syrian girl decided to speak out again after Assad's regime launched a chemical weapons attack on Tuesday, killing more than 80 civilians. Now, there were pictures of this. They're gross. I'm not going to show them. You can look them up, and there's tons of people showing how those are fake news. This is my message to the leaders of the world. It's never too late to save the people of Syria. Yeah, it would be too late after they're dead. I mean, this is pure rhetoric right here. The people of Syria don't want condemnation. They want to be saved. Okay, this is appeal to Christian morality. To be saved. All we want is to be saved. Condemnation doesn't save lives, but actions do. End Syria war now, Al-Abed said a day after the attack. One of the creepiest things about this whole thing, besides just using a little girl to start a war, is that they're calling for ending a war in Syria by starting one. You know, talk about the upside down world. Now, a couple things that come to mind. First of all, who took this picture? And where is this rubble? Where's the context? When we saw the cameraman with Anderson Cooper, we learned that that was fake news. When we saw the full story of the little Mexican girl crying at the border, we learned the story they told us was fake news. There's no context here, but there is some strange things. First of all, if she is in Aleppo, how did she get internet access? I thought this place just had 59 missiles launched at it. If she is in Aleppo, why is her sign written in English? Perfect English. They've even got cute little, here's a capital P, a capital L, and then lowercase letters, just like a child would write it. In fact, if she's in a war zone, where'd she even get the cardboard or the multicolored crayons? Or markers, or whatever was used. If you can't look at this and ask yourself some basic questions, this is a manipulated photo. This is an advertisement for globalism. What they sell you is relief from the guilt that you're supposed to be feeling, because this little child is suffering, and you're supposed to go, oh, send in the troops, the war is justified. There's a little girl with a sign. And that's how much respect they have for you. The tech companies prop it up. She gets massive numbers of followers. Those of you that are on the left that think that tech censorship is good, just wait till they start getting the wars they want. And then try speaking out against that. By reading this article, you think, in a letter sent from Turkey, well, I thought she was in Aleppo. It's really, really dark. And they're manipulating you here on the southern border. This one is brought to you by the great Paul Joseph Watson. Photos reveal AOC was crying over an empty parking lot. So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, this is media darling. The audience of Stephen Colbert, like brain-dead cultists, were chanting her name over and over as if she is the one that is going to lead the liberal cause into a new age. Or maybe she just wants power and she's willing to do anything to get it. We'll see how idealistic she is then. Newly uncovered photos from the border protest, attended by a tearful Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, show that she was crying over an empty parking lot. Many have accused the Congresswoman and her supporters of staging a photo op after the images taken during a 2018 event outside a migrant tent city in Tornillo, Texas, went viral earlier this week. The photos show an emotional AOC holding her face and appearing to cry. Her attention appears to be directed towards whatever is on the other side of the fence. So here she is, looking very sad. Pay attention to everything. Everything is part of a commercial for globalism here. Notice she's wearing all white. What does white signify? Purity, innocence. Her message is pure. Her feelings are raw. Again, what is it selling you on? It's guilt. It's the guilt complex. It's the old Catholic indulgences recycled over and over and over again. These people know their history, and they know how to push the buttons of good-hearted Christians and how to get them to give up their money or their support or go whatever direction they're needed to go. Here we are. However, a photo from a different angle, the context, right? Anderson Cooper with his camera crew, from a different angle shows there is nothing here aside from an empty parking lot and some police officers, probably there to protect her. And you notice this fence she's crying over, it ends about right here, right outside of the frame of the picture. There's the end of the fence. It's not even a complete fence. And here are these so-called protesters. Another image shows a photographer being careful to capture AOC's reaction as she gets emotional over what appears to be little other than a vehicle and a tree. So there she is, and there's a little context, right? Always ask yourself when you're looking and you're presented with a photo, where's the cameraman? Who's the cameraman? As we previously reported, Ocasio-Cortez attended to star-studded protest wearing a pristine white outfit, bright red lipstick, and a $600 watch. There she is, crying her eyes out. There's her watch. You can see it here on Amazon. $5.95. So much for the socialist ideals. This prompted many of her critics to accuse the Congresswoman and her supporters of staging the photos. Accuse? I mean, it's the truth, right? This is a staged photo op. Arguing the images did not show a spontaneous, authentic reaction. I wonder how many times she had to bend over and do this and hold her head. Take 5. Now hold your head in your hands and look like you're just overwhelmed by emotion. And everything here, every bit of it is just perfectly cut and controlled. Except for the watch. They must have overlooked it. So there's some memes here. Such a pain, such anguish. Oh, the humanity, crying. There she is, looking very forlorn, you know. Psych, it's just an empty parking lot. Look at this. Hugging, women hugging, vulnerable women in white hugging each other. This is such an abuse of the psychology of humanity. It's really disgusting. So, Zero Hedge adds, Candace Owen has decided to reenact AOC's stage photos, but hers will be outside an inner city school. So there's Candace in all white, holding her face, covering her eyes. She can't even look. She looks a little more serious, though. This looks like the face of a fighter. This is the face of a fraud. and you can't help but laugh. It's just so incredibly comical. It's like the Wizard of Oz when they pull back the curtain on the wizard, and you see it's just a guy pulling ropes and strings to make fireworks go off. There's nothing there. It's all theater. I decided to stage a photo shoot just like AOC, except I'm outside of an inner city school where the conditions are abhorrent and the majority of black American boys can't pass a basic reading exam. Maybe the liberal media will now give some attention to this epidemic. #Blexit. And so when you see these photos revealed for what they are, it's pure psychological manipulation. Ask yourself if this is how they treat you when they are out of power. Just imagine what they're going to do once they've got it.